Go to the next item on the agenda is the banner policy revisions, and that's led by Bob, our attorney.
Sure. Well, I think we've had enough discussion about this in the past, or the issues that we're dealing with. This really came about as a result of the Supreme Court decision that came out several years ago involving the city of Boston that was not being very careful about permitting banners to be hung on city flagpoles. And there was some questions about whether a particular applicant was wrongly denied the opportunity to hang a banner that would go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that they were, because the city had not done a good job of controlling the banners that were going up. So it was essentially, they were allowing the city flagpoles to be used as an expression by public or by private entities and nonprofit groups and for-profit groups. It was the banners were not just for the expression of city sentiments or city policies or city values. If what is put on city poles or flagpoles or banners, streetlights, whatever it is, if those are considered to be representative of the city's core values or city-sponsored events, then that's called government speech, and that is not subject to First Amendment issues. You don't have a problem with controlling that yourself. Once you open it up and allow private groups to come in and use the city property for expressions that are not consistent with the city's own core values, or just maybe the city doesn't have a position one way or the other, but it's not a core function of the city, then you can't discriminate against who else might be able to come in and put up banners similar to that. So in the Boston case, it was a Christian group that wanted to put up a banner. The city had allowed banners to go up. They decided that they wouldn't let the Christian banner go up because of the separation of church and state. And the Supreme Court said you can't do that because you have not regulated any of the other banners, and those are not expressions of government. Those aren't government speech. Those were just private speech. So if you're going to allow private speech, you can't then discriminate against them because of a religious message that's being displayed. So we adopted the policy a number of years ago that said the city's banners are not a forum for public expression. It's only for city-sponsored events or messages that are expressing the city's core values or city-sponsored events or things like that. And then we have a process that we went through for approval of those banners, and I think that's what the issue is now. I think that the idea of controlling the banners is still where we want to be. I don't think we want to open it up because then you get into all kinds of problems with regulating or controlling who gets to and who doesn't get to put up banners. I don't think the city wants to be in that position. But it's a question of what process do you want to follow. First off, you want to continue with what we had adopted a number of years ago, limiting the types of banners that go up, and if so, what is the process you want to follow for each one of those?
Okay. Well, just a question on these two. Seemed like it focused more on the flagpole in front of the city hall. Didn't really, they may not even have a situation where they have banners at all. I don't know, but that's what it seemed to
These
talk
are
about.
flagpoles, but I don't think that there's any difference between a flagpole or a street lamp or
Okay.
a banner across. The banner we have up on is 9th Street.
Yeah.
It's all the same. If it's city property and it is displaying any kind of
Anything.
banner, it's gonna be subject to the same analysis.
Right, but they didn't have any policies at all at this point.
I think in the Sherwood case, there was a policy, but it was not enforced. They just accepted all applications.
Okay.
They just allowed everybody to put up their banners without really discriminating.
Well, they basically made the pool for that purpose. That's what it sounded like to me. It was basically for the community to express.
Yeah, it at least had become that.
Yeah.
It had become a
Yeah.
poll that was available for the city. And they had groups that would have little ceremonies, and things as they were doing their flag raisings, which were not city-sponsored events. These were just private entities that were doing this.
I think one of the challenges that I see is not necessarily with what does get hung. It's when one is denied, where we could face challenge. The constant thing I look at for the city, you know, all the ways that we are protecting the city, and one of the ways that we're responsible for protecting the city from is litigation. And I think anytime we see a denial of a banner, we have the potential for a challenge, whether it's right or wrong. It's still a costly endeavor to do. And I'll just throw out my own opinion. I think it might be the best case scenario for us to not do any applications for banners and not, cause then we're not denying any. Whether
I
it
think
be.
too, it comes down to government speech and public speech, right? So there's 3 categories on here that are government speech and one is public speech. So once we specifically put something on here, like equity and diversity, we're allowing one group to have precedent over another, right? And that's where it gets trouble. So right now, based on that, the way that it's in there, there's more people who could probably sue us that aren't included than are, unless equity and diversity covers everybody. If it does, then we're in the clear. If it doesn't, we're not, right? So like, does it cover the Jewish community of Greater Wenatchee?
So this is
Yeah,
the
that's the-
question,
yeah.
and
Right.
a lot of it is public perception. Because some people may view equity, diversity equity as exactly that, it includes everybody, others may see that as advocating for a specific group. And that's where you end up with the potential litigation. If you allow that, then you have to allow some group that is opposed to some aspects of equity and diversity to hang their banners. That's the litigation you end up with.
And then it comes down to as well, if there's 2 people that have fallen into the equity and diversity, right, or one of the others that want the same time, how do you choose?
Well, the timing is different than approval or non-approval. If it's just a timing issue, that's not necessarily a denial, it's just a denial not based on the content, but based on the timing of it. It's a denial based on the content that will create the problems.
So, and I would say, you know, I wasn't on the council when the current policy was approved, so who was on the council?
And Matthew.
Perfect. So with specifically equity and diversity, what was that put on there for? Why did you feel like that specific one needed to be exempted?
We were doing a strategic plan, and specifically in the strategic plan, on page 21, that one of our goals is to be a community of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And so that's why you felt like you could put it on there.
Because it was, yeah, because it's
So that was just it, that was it. What I'm trying to get to is if it covered everybody, which sounds like I understand. It covers every race, it covers every religion, and we don't need to have that on there because everybody should have the same process.
well, I was just expressing why it was put in there, you know, at that point in time.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking if everybody's included by it, every nonprofit, every race, religion, orientation is covered by it, and we didn't put it in there. But specifically for specific groups, that's why it was put in. That's what I'm trying to.
It was never for a specific group.
So then there's no need to have, because everybody gets the same consideration.
No, I don't think that's what,
I don't
I think those are 2 different things. It's not saying, because, I mean, we're not, this current policy, let's say Seahawks, getting ready to go to the Super Bowl, this policy doesn't cover Seahawks, right? We get an application tomorrow for the Seahawks and it would be denied based off of that policy. So no, it's not anything and everything.
Well, I mean,
If you're a Seahawks fan,
So-
that's not covered under that. So no, it's not all encompassing. So an application, maybe let's say an application came in for Hispanic Heritage Month. Under this current policy that we live under, that would be approved. Cause that fits
Right, that's what I'm saying, so why do we have to have it? Why do we have a specific marker on here if everybody goes to the same thing outside of our federal city sister? If everybody's going to the same thing, not specifically Seahawks. If the Seahawks had a nonprofit who put in to have a Seahawks banner and sponsor it like this, it would be something we would consider, because a nonprofit put in, we lay out.
No, it would not, cause the category, the messaging of the banner does not fit under the current policy.
So who has to sponsor the banner account to go through the process as well as?
It would have to be a nonprofit, but the subject matter still would have to be approved. So a Seahawks banner, so a nonprofit group who, Seahawks fans of Washington State, if there was a nonprofit that said that, and they submitted a banner under this current policy, it doesn't qualify. It still could be, it would go under the current policy. I would deny it as a mayor because it doesn't fit, but it would go to the council for,
Right, that's what,
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm getting to, is that if a nonprofit sponsors it, they can put in an application.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Everybody.
Yes,
I
I'm
mean,
sorry,
we have
I
our-
didn't understand
we
your
have our
question, yes.
discretion. If they bring it to council, right, most likely we're gonna say, hey, that doesn't meet the city sentiment.
Right,
Go through
yes.
that
A
process,
nonprofit
right? And
would
that
have to
seems
bring-
like
yeah.
a very logical one.
Yes.
But I'm saying, I think there are some that aren't as cut and dry that might apply, that would not, if any religious group, any charity group, put in a banner to do some month, you're saying they fall under equity diversity.
I wouldn't say that. You're saying I would say that, I don't think that's, so if someone.
So what group, can you
Yeah.
give me an example of what group, not Seahawks, but like religious or nonprofit, wouldn't fall under equity diversity?
If there was a religious one, I think you used an example of a,
So
of
like
a-
Jewish community, Greater Wenatchee, or
Yeah.
Islam
Yeah.
community.
I don't think
those
that
would, I don't think those fit.
So
Under
then we're
diversity.
discriminating
Well, no,
against
because
those groups.
religion and
Because-
government don't go together.
Right, but what we're saying is we're giving one group equity and diversity, you are now deciding what falls under equity and diversity. Because I would say religion falls under equity and diversity, but you don't, right? So you have that choice. What I'm saying is that it does. If
Well, the
Catholic.
problem,
Matthew?
so I think the problem with that argument, though, is if you're having religion compared to diversity, I can convert to Judaism. I can't convert to being an African American.
I 100% agree.
Well,
Although
and
you
it,
could identify.
and again, I recognize the challenge that you're presenting, and there are times where it's like, ooh, that's kind of a gray area line, and those are tough. And I think the challenge is when it's perceived that we've made the wrong decision on an approval or not approval, and the litigation then happens. That's the piece that I don't want the city to have to go through. I don't want our taxpayers to have to, I love Bob and he does great work for us, but I would rather not have to pay him to fight battles for us. So, I think removing it and not having any applications come to the city at all for anything, and it be city things.
City event.
Yeah, city events that the city controlled, there's no application and denial process for any of them. I think is the safest route to go. I think there's lots of opportunity, I mean, we've got a large crowd here today, I think there's lots of opportunity for, other groups to take up the cause and to take up, campaigns and have, and we see that, and it's wonderful, and it's great. But to remove that from the responsibility here to protect the financial obligations and litigation. of the
That is,
city.
so at that point, then we don't
That
need
is.
the banner because we're the only ones that can do it. We don't need a policy. Because it's only us that puts up.
You would probably still want a policy to
Yeah.
control what banners the city.
The city
would-
puts up, yeah.
Yeah, and
So
so, for
would it be
instance,
federal and?
yeah, federal holidays, for instance, the banner policy could say, yes, we will do that, city-sponsored events.
And that way, it could be determined by how much the city is willing to spend.
Right.
In time and
budget,
money,
yeah.
and not be questioned on.
But I do agree, I think we would still need a policy to be clear of what our city banners are. We wouldn't charge, cause it's us.
Oh, we're doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So the city banners, as I understand it, the sister city is the same as the Miss Vidal, Miss Alva, is that all the same banner?
Yeah, Trina, I don't know if you heard the question, I don't think we have any sister city banners. I think we used to, but we haven't replaced them.
No, so those banners were for Wings and Wheels, and they promoted
Oh.
just Miss Vidal in general, so the ones that said Wings and Wheels, we don't have those anymore, but the ones, like, half of them said Wings and Wheels, the other half were just Miss Vidal, and it had, I think, the year on it, and so those we still put up around the beginning of October in celebration of.
So it doesn't say sister city, but essentially it's in relationship to that.
It's
we
just
have-
Miss Vidal.
The classy chassis apple blossom, is that theme and period the same? Then we have the veteran, which the city owns.
No,
It's under the city owned.
no, we don't own those, it's a nonprofit that applies to hang those.
I didn't see them. on
The veterans.
Bottom section, so.
It fits under a federal holiday, which if we were to allow federal holiday, but we do not own those banners.
Okay, I'll rephrase that.
Yeah.
So we do recognize Veterans Day.
Yeah.
And if the city wanted to recognize Independence Day or Memorial Day, the city could do that under a policy that just listed cities.
And our dime,
Pardon?
and our dime. It would be at our cost,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm not
Yeah.
skipping over the financial
Yeah.
part of it, but the federal holidays and then city events. So, right now, the city events are kind of locked in unless council comes
With
to
another.
approval for new ones, is that right? So if we run into some type of expensive litigation, if some group decides that we're not selecting them, if we just use the ones that the city hangs, plus the federal holidays, we would be in a better spot, legally.
If you didn't accept any applications, then you're not gonna get into claims of violation of free speech rights.
Could we do kind of a hybrid of what we're talking about? Could we do only city and federal holidays that have them sponsored by a nonprofit here?
Well, I thought about that too, so, for instance, Veterans Day is a good example. You could probably accept the banners as a donation, okay, to the city would have to hang.
Right,
Okay,
well,
but
as we do
you
now,
could-
right.
If someone wanted to offer you banners to recognize Veterans Day, 4th of July, Memorial Day, whatever, other federally
Right,
recognized
right,
holidays.
yeah.
I would do
And then
that.
could the sponsor you put their name on it?
I would say no.
Okay.
And here's why I wouldn't like that, because again, anytime you open it up, anytime you deny one, so let's just say Veterans Day, we love the Veterans Day banners that currently get hung up, they're fabulous, they're wonderful. But let's say somebody goes, oh gosh, because we'll accept applications for Veterans Day banners, what's to keep someone from submitting a Veterans Day banners that has, a cross in the background, and we deny it because of that, again, those will be challenged. We could be absolutely 100%
Well,
in the right, but it still doesn't.
Yeah, but I think
challenge.
we're not going into the free speech zone here, we're still in the government-sponsored speech. And if we're gonna have banners and we allow somebody to sponsor them, we would set the size type of what the sponsorship
I would
would
say
be.
you're not allowing anyone to sponsor them. Okay, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is city has already approved banners for that particular federal holiday. If an organization wants to donate banners to the city for the city to use,
Mhm.
they're not sponsoring it, they're not applying for it, they're just offering using them to save the city the money of having to use the banners themselves.
So it wouldn't be an application process.
No, but
I like that better, yeah.
you would still need the policy, because you would still need to be able to approve it.
If you want to approve the banners, yes.
The city received a donation of banners for Memorial Day and Independence Day, and we're not putting any company or family name on there. The city can decide whether to accept those donated banners
As long as there was no control over the banners.
Sounds like fit within the approved
Yeah,
federal
the city is in
sponsored.
control over the
Right.
banners.
No provisos, the city will decide whether a Fourth of July banner will be best in July instead of November, so
Oh, we
that's
like
an
that.
easy peasy. But if they're donated, and there's no names on them, and there's no business certification or sponsorship, the city could then accept them one at a time, case by case.
But they're only donated for that time period,
Yeah, you give
we're
them
not in
back.
charge of having to hold them, yeah.
And you could, if they wanted to donate them and you wanted to keep them, you could, but you wouldn't have to.
It's at 3,000.
Yeah.
Matthew, you got anything to add?
When I put my veteran banner up, you know, it was $200-something for my banner alone. I know there was a number of banners out there, you know, so I mean, that's gonna be a pretty hefty chunk of change. And honestly, I think as soon as we say no to somebody, with or without the policy, we're gonna kind of end up in a crossfire and we're gonna get sued either way. Honestly, I think the safest way is just to not put them up at this point.
I think that's where you get into government speech and free speech, or public speech.
You feel like though that we could draft a policy that avoids avoids the situation of any denial? I mean, so Matthew, I don't know if can you hear us okay?
I'm having a hard time hearing Bob.
Okay,
Okay, so,
I'll put that closer, is that better?
There we go, that's better, thank you, sorry.
I'm gonna try and restate this, and then Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think we kind of covered what your concern is there, Matthew, in that, I believe Bob is saying that we would have to redo our policy. We're not accepting we wouldn't be accepting applications. However, we could accept, we'll say veterans banners. If the council decides that fits, federal holidays fit into our policy, that we could provide for someone to donate banners for that cause. City wouldn't be having to assume the expense of that, as long as they are approved banners and we're accepting the donation of them. So the veterans one would be a good example of because it's the Wenatchee Downtown Association that organizes those, and they could donate those for that period of time to the city to use for the celebration of a federal holiday. Did I get that correct? Okay.
And the banners the individual banners would have to be approved by the city council or the process.
But in this, going back to our Seahawks example earlier, if the Seahawks wanted to donate one for a federal holiday, have nothing Seahawks on
Oh.
there, they're donating them, they're totally allowed to.
If they wanted to donate
That would be
Independence
Only
Day
if
banner.
we say,
If
we
they-
might not have the staff time to put
Independence
a,
Day one, let's say they did an Independence Day one, they gave us American flags that go perfectly.
just
on
because
that.
they wanna give them doesn't mean we have to accept them.
True.
Right, but I'm saying if they could donate, then we then can choose.
Anybody can offer a banner if it is consistent with the city's policy.
Right.
And the city would always have the option to either accept it or deny it.
Yeah, we may already have ones that are hanging, or we may not have the staff time to do it, and so that year we can't do it.
I was just trying to be clear to Matthew's point, that anybody can donate. We're not,
Right.
they just can't
We're not
then
guaranteed.
say something on the bottom of their
Right.
own charity.
And we're not
Just
obligated.
so you're-
Well, I mean, let's walk that out though. I mean, so say one's donated, you know, and it's American flag and it's, you know, in Christ we trust or something, or in Islam we trust, right? Something hypothetical that we're never going to agree with, right? So, or it's something that definitely crosses the bounds, but they're putting it up there anyways, and then we deny it. Do we face litigation then?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, you don't. Well, you always are subject to somebody suing, but would they have a chance to win that case? I would say no.
We're
Because
not
the city
doing
would deny it
viewpoint.
because it is containing an expression that goes beyond what the city has approved as expressions of the city's sentiments or the city's approved, policy, so.
Well, and a public entity does not have a right to the city property or public property.
Nobody has a
Probably.
right to put it on the city property unless it's approved by the council.
Right.
And we have to do it.
And if there was one like his example that we did put up, and we didn't put up another, that would come down to, I think it's what, viewpoint.
Discrimination.
Viewpoint differences, right? Yeah, so
So,
if we said
yes.
nothing, then we're good.
And we would be fired until the next year comes.
If council's receiving a proposal donation of the flag, the banners, and they're done at a public council meeting, so that's when we approve them or not. That would be for a federal holiday, speaking. So if somebody wants to donate a federal holiday flag that we don't currently post, then that still would come through council approval, and it's all done in a public meeting.
I think it was more, I think it'd be turned around the other way. I think it would be the council, tell me if you think this is crazy, I think it'd be the council saying, we want an Independence Day banner, because we don't have one, and we think it would be good, and asking for any or anybody who might possibly want to donate them, not, I mean, anybody could come at any time, I guess, and say, hey, gosh, we've got a great idea, we'd love to have you put this banner up for this holiday, but I think it's more the other way around of, we have Independence Day, we don't have any banners for, gosh, does anyone want to donate one?
Okay.
I mean, me personally, I don't wanna open this up to just everyone rushing and, gosh, we're gonna donate these banners, please go put those up. It should be, what do we need and want, what do you council need and want, and do we have the staff time and capacity to even do it, and if we don't, then let's not even entertain
No, I
the
wasn't
asking.
trying to muddy it up for staff or
Yeah.
council. Basically, if you have somebody willing to donate that, in the short of it, we would still be approving that during one of our legal meetings, regular council meetings.
Well, we haven't really figured out the approval process, I would have to.
Well, I mean, if.
That's gonna have to be.
Currently it goes to the mayor.
Drafts for.
And right now, we don't do it till the end of the year,
Is-
so.
Yeah, but ultimately, go in front of the council the way the policy reads, someone could appeal the denial, the mayor deny one. But the answer to your question, anybody could offer, a banner that was consistent with the city's policy, and the city would then ultimately have to decide whether the banner was an accurate, fair representation of that holiday that the city's willing to support as a core value, or the city may say, we don't like this because it has your name on it, or it has some mark on here that we think is unrelated to this particular holiday, and maybe sends a message we don't wanna send. So that's where the approval process would have to come in.
So in the effort to make a much smaller policy, it sounds like, suggestions would go to legal counsel, and it seems like it's a lot less cumbersome than taking those 5 suggestions we had October 21st and consolidating them. Because staff and the council didn't do that, so I put them together, and it's pretty cumbersome. And I have a draft of it. The bottom line is that if we're approaching a simpler policy, then we would get that before council and
Yes. And
our
that's
legal counsel.
And that's what
Once we're here to just give me some direction on what kind of policy you would like to see, that I would then work on.
Sounds reasonable.
So,
Do you feel like you've got,
I think I have an idea.
So I do have one other question. So I appreciate where we're going here, but I also appreciate the nonprofits in the community that want to support these banners and these things. Is there anything we could do, they could do that would let them notify that, hey, we sponsored these, like
when we announce it at the council
when we
meeting?
announce it at the council meeting? Can we do that?
If this was kindly donated by the Wenatchee Downtown Association.
Yeah, is there something that we could, like, could they advertise that, like, hey, we sponsored these flags?
Or we.
Or
we
could they,
donated,
could
we
they,
donated.
Yeah, I
could
think
they
we
put it out there?
You could put donated by.
Okay.
Again, it becomes a bit tricky because you want to avoid, allowing groups to get a message out there that is not part of whatever it is that you have approved. that's where I think we would have to look at, what is it, how are they intending?
So
to do
just
that?
acknowledgement that city council would be
And
in
maybe
this
also,
way.
we may be able to, yes.
So, and what are so if we're talking specifically about federal holidays, city-sponsored events and sister city events, not those just federal?
I wouldn't even say cities, I would list the events.
The specific.
Our city
Yeah.
events.
I guess the only challenge
That's
would be is
okay.
if we had a new city event.
Well, but
I
you
mean,
can
like
put that
if-
in the policy, like if a new event.
I would just
comes
keep
out.
it the city sponsored. Then
City
you don't have to
sponsored, I mean,
like-
because obviously you're approving those by allowing us to have that event, so.
Council can always add
I mean,
new ones.
Yeah.
What are the specific federal holidays?
Any federal holiday.
Any federal holiday? That's a lot, I'm just saying that's a lot.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, that's
Okay,
what,
I have to look right here.
that's, yeah.
So you got New Year's, birthday of Martin Luther King, Inauguration Day, Washington's birthday or President's Day, Memorial Day, last Monday in May, Juneteenth, National Independence Day, June 19th, Independence Day, July 4th, Labor Day, September, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas Day.
You had those memorized, good job, Matthew.
How many was that?
Yeah, I got it.
He's got it right, and in order too, good job.
So, you have enough to know.
I have enough to know, to put
Let's
together
Yeah.
a draft.
A draft.
Or just become the subject of another.
So if we're only so are we just changing that one section or are we changing the whole approval
Changing,
process?
well, I think it was changing.
Okay, all right.
And then we can bring in the draft onto us in another.
Yes.
So I saw a
Right, but I mean,
couple of
no, but the
drafts
mayor approved it.
together, with some people wanted the committee to approve them, some people want the whole city council to approve them, so what would be that process?
Well, we're now in a different realm
Yeah.
because we're not accepting applications, so there won't be
Yeah.
a process. The only thing the city council would be doing would be accepting donated banners and deciding whether those were appropriate or not appropriate for use.
Right, so the city council would still, though, if somebody gave American flag banners, and they donated them with no logos, just shows the American flag, all the poles, and they gave it to us, who decides?
That's what the policy will have to address.
I think we have to start with a draft and then
Yes.
start redlining we have to have something to start with to get feedback on. But I feel like you have enough
I have
to
enough
get
to start,
started,
yes.
yeah.
So, I just wanted to clarify, because it seemed to me when I read the other policy, it also included the one in Merrill, which is a little bit
Yes,
different.
that's a street banner.
Is that a separate policy or is it
It needs to be
incorporated?
incorporated, it needs to be
Okay.
part of this, and I would say the same things apply. I think you have to be very careful about allowing any city property to be used for advertising, nonprofit or otherwise.
Yeah, I'm not sure why we do that.
Everybody uses that.
Yeah, everybody uses it, and I mean, there's plenty of private property where the banners can be hung. I think the city has to be careful about allowing any city property to be used to advertise for a particular organization or group too.
Yeah, I would like to take a look at that outside of
That-
the banner policy.
That has improved in the past several years, because we have City Hall approving them now versus people just hanging them.
Well, they still do.
Pardon? I know, but the city process of approving them and giving them specific up and down dates has seemed to be working for organizations, but that's still, I didn't make that rule, but the city has been doing it, and I think it's been cleaned up quite a
I
bit.
think the city has enforced that better than it did
Oh,
historically.
yeah, there's no enforcement before. So we're not,
Okay, so you're okay with the direction
I'm
we
good
gave?
with, I've got a structure.
Okay.
I can come back to the council with, clearly on what I see as the direction for, what would be approved or not approved. The approval process is something I'll recommend, and then the council can deal with that.
Can we get a timeline?
Well, so let me ask council this then, do you want this to be, after Bob has had a chance to do a draft, do you want another workshop on it? I'm guessing another round of discussion before it becomes on a council agenda for consideration?
sounds like a workshop at less time, too.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
That would be best.
And that, because I'm sure the public would like to know that too then. So I'm hearing this needs to be on, the next workshop again. So there's no final action that will be taken until after at least another workshop.
Is it doable
Okay.
for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna be
Couple weeks.
No, the next workshop is, do you have a
Third or
date?
something?
February.
Third.
The Thursday after the
February 19th.
second
So
meeting.
it's always, it's the Thursday after the second meeting, yeah, that should.
Okay.
Your closing comment?
Yeah.
During council meeting, when we were holding off on awarding applications, we did clarify to Laura, who was receiving our information, that we were holding off on banner applications outside of the city's own banners. So that still is on the act of the city's own banner. So we did go ahead and pull that.
I know that we haven't officially adopted anything, but based on tonight's conversation, it sounds like we're going towards a policy. Since I do have applications now, and just for clarification, Bob, you wouldn't recommend for me to reach out to them and let them know the status of this policy until it's formally adopted, correct?
Yes, there's no changes from what the council did a couple months ago in terms of everything being aligned